Welcome to another episode of Dinner for Wolf, a podcast where three friends from across the country watch movies that are good and bad, but always unintentionally hilarious. I'm Grace Bike, and I'm joined two co-hosts.
Blue Morrow.
And Grandpa for Redster.
And this week, we have a doozy for you. This week, we went 7 days to the future and managed to come back with a tale of the Tomorrow War. This movie came to Amazon Prime Video and was written by Zach Dean. And I'm going to give one little blurb about him because it's going to be relevant later. He has only one other solo writing credit to his name, a movie called Deadfall, which was panned by critics who singled out its poor writing. It was directed by Chris McKay, who has only one other directing credit to his name in film. He directed the Lego Batman movie, and prior to that, he directed a bunch of episodes of Robot Chicken. So, before we get into what we liked, what we didn't like, and everything else about this movie, we're going to jump into our new recurring segment where we break down the plot of the movie as quickly as we can, the speed run. Red?
I'm not red. Get it right.
Oh, no. Blue? All right.
Offensive. All right.
Excuse me.
So, cue dramatic shot of Andy from Parks and Rec falling into a pool from the sky, and he swims out. Lots of explosions, chaos, yelling. Zoom in. Bam! Text on the screen. XD 6 years earlier. It's a Chris's party. He's a teacher. Doesn't want to be a teacher. Wants to be a scientist. Make Dad proud. Wait, no, not Dad. Boom, Christmas card in the trash. Excited, can't focus on the party. Gonna get himself a lab job. Phone rings, doesn't get lab job. Not enough experience. Man, if I had a nickel, am I right? Watching soccer. Pass, deflection, pass, breakaway, and static. Wormhole, future soldiers. There's a war we're losing. In the future, the white spikes, emerge, and an army of a whole lot more than 7 nations couldn't hold them back, so we need help from our parents. We're going to send you past people, all these troops and resources and science technology to fight when the invasion starts, right? Nope. Go to the future, fight when it's already lost. That's the plan. Cut to science teacher, Star-Lord, who won't pick on the black kid to ask a question, and it's really awkward. Like, really awkward for a long time. So you learn he's not picking on the kid because he's super into volcanoes and it's annoying, and that's why they won't call on him. He gets a text, says he's been drafted. He learns he dies, so that's why he can be drafted. Gets his arm stable to a jump drive and goes home. Wife wants him to run, but he can't run because his arm just got low-jacked. So he goes to his dad, who ran from his family after Nam. But Lego Movie protagonist voiceover guy, doing the science, is still mad, rejects help after he went to his dad for help, and shows up for the draft. He meets Angry Hicks, Smart Hudson, and Pompadour Ripley from Aliens, and they're all smart, so they do research. But the jump goes wrong, and they gotta fight their way into the lab, get some unobtainium, and run out of the stairwell, where they see the shoulder creature from Jabba the Hutt's palace mixed with a xenomorph from Aliens that got left in the sun too long, and they gotta shoot him in the neck or belly. The ride gets wrecked, and some guy and Pompadour Ripley get eaten, and Angry Hicks is angry about it. Pratt wakes up on an island from that last mission, talks to the mission command, who, oh man, it's his daughter, but don't worry, she didn't do a nepotism to see her dad. She did a nepotism so he can do something only he can. What is it, you ask? That's classified, Private Dad. They gotta capture a mama, because they gotta get this good penicillin to work on the ladies. They try and put it to sleep, but do a bad job, so they have to lasso it and put it in a cage with openings in it, at which point the creature that shoots dozens of spikes in the previous scene stops shooting spikes through spike-sized openings. Also, Star-Lord learns he left his family before he died, just like his dad. They work on the cure, they reminisce, they start to not hate each other, they get the cure. Now he needs to bring it back to the past, and then back to the future to deploy again, instead of using it in the past so this never happens. Got it? Cool. But oh no, an attack. They have to run before the Sabbath, where all the white stripes sleep off of Bender, and humans jump, 'cause cool. The chopper gets swarmed, so they hide, they fight, she gets spiked, and hands her dad the formula he need to have 10 seconds later before jumping back, because margins of error for suckers. His daughter gets grabbed and is hanged like cliffhanger, lets go to save the world, and he jumps after her, determined to throw away her sacrifice, only to be betrayed by his dimensional LoJack Pip-Boy. They have to tell the future, but the link is severed, and everyone gives up hope, and just settles in for 20 years of depravity, I guess. The government gives up, everyone gives up. Volcano Kid finds out they need to go to Russia, so it's all up to them, what's his name's Jurassic Park's dad, to smuggle them in. They carve through thousands of feet of ice with absolute precision, blow up the ship, and scream die at the female until it chokes on the toxin, and the world is saved, until all their children meet their future selves and get the time paradox ending from Metal Gear Solid 3 in reverse.
Not bad. We are looking at, let's see the time. 4 minutes, 10 seconds.
That is 2 hours and 16 minutes I have saved all of you audience members from watching this movie. Good lord.
So, the Tomorrow War, okay. Before we talk mainly about what we liked, what we didn't like, all that stuff, is actually prime pandemic story, right? It's actually a legitimate movie. Like this is actually slated for theaters, made by Paramount. It does not go to Paramount, however, because of no tickets, no seating, no theaters in general. So it's sold to Amazon Prime for $200 million. So if you look at any of the star power and the CGI quality, you're like, this seems pretty good for Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I mean it was a flashy movie. There were times I had fun watching the movie. Like it was fun, blockbuster whatever thing sometimes, but it was not. There's also times where it really drops. The special effects were good, and Gray, you and I were talking this a little bit. The white spikes, they just look like it. That's what it looked like. The thing from Jabba the Hutt's palace in the stairwell. Like I have expected it to pop out of a crypt and read me a campy story, like for the Crypt Keeper. I mean, it wasn't. They look bad. In action scenes. They look good, but like when it's close up, they look goofy. It's weird.
What I think they're just very uninspired, is what it is. It's like they're just like lazily designed at the sketching out process. The CGI is done very well for the most part,
Right.
but they're just such an unoriginal design. It's like let's take the xenomorph from Alien and an octopus and the things from A Quiet Place and just mush them all together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And give them a skull face.
Yeah.
Give
Oh
them
yeah.
a skull
Make sure their face is Scully. It's got to be nice
Yeah.
and Scully.
Yep.
I mean, some of the stuff of the design, so this is how far in the future again? It's like what, 30 something years in the
Yeah, I think
future?
it was like 2060 something is when this is all happening, something like that.
Yeah, so we're looking at like 30, 40 years in the future, and they just did some of those like lazy things that you see low budget movies do, that you see like lower budget movies do to like make it look like it's the future. Like I'm thinking movies like Equilibrium and Time Cop, where it was just like clearly like pieces of plastic just molded onto regular cars,
Yeah.
or like that car from RoboCop that was just like an 80s car with stuff on it.
Yeah,
Like
pretty much.
so the Humvees are normal Humvees. All they
Yep.
did is put metal plates over the headlights and then like an LED fake headlight bar behind the grill. Other than that, it's a regular Humvee. They're just like, let's just cover the headlights up and now it's futuristic. You're like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah, but you need
gotta
those.
appreciate the efficiency of this theater production.
Then same thing with the guns. It's just like regular guns just with extra attachments on them, and like now they're future guns.
Yeah.
Right. That have and this is true. This movie's not credit. Like every other movie does this. 120 round clips with no recoil. I mean,
That's the future, man.
they show them reloading like sometimes, but not very often.
That's future
No.
technology, man. You got caseless ammo. You can fit 100 rounds into.
I remember when I first played Halo, and I'm like, oh, all this stuff from the future, and like we got 60 rounds instead of 30 into what we're calling
Pretty
an assault
impressive.
rifle, and that's the future. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is just real quick on the guns. Really inconsistent with how the guns impact the alien
Yes.
things. Like there are times when they're impervious except for their neck and tummy.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there are times when the guns blow off the tentacles.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there are times when bullets strike the tummy or neck and just like put holes in them. And then there are times when the same gun makes their heads explode off.
Yep. Now,
So-
there's little like one of the times that exploded off was just when he's lowering into the pit to get, and like he just shot a billion bullets into it, so it's like okay, maybe. And at the end, it was like point blank, maybe. And like you could say like, Well, you got to shoot him in the head because maybe you can shoot the tentacles off. It won't do anything. But yeah, like when you add all those up, you have like 30 excuses. So the actual answer is they were just lazy with it and hope
Yeah,
that people
it's
wouldn't like. Right?
it
Yeah.
like
So I'm gonna
it
come from
reminds.
the future, and
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you about what's gonna happen later in the podcast when we actually talk about all the stuff that we had gripes with. And
Oh
now
damn.
Oh
we're gonna bring
no.
you to the part where we're gonna talk about what worked with this movie, as always. So welcome to the future podcast.
Yo, but no, hold on. We can't go to the parts of podcast in between those.
It's a
We
raft,
can
all right?
only jump
That's the
back
only
and
way I can
forth.
explain it,
That's
okay?
right.
Okay.
This
Is
podcast is
this
consistently moving forward, and right now we're gonna talk about the stuff that was actually working on this podcast.
I
So,
mean, yeah,
in
go
general,
ahead. Yeah.
like a great cast. Okay, J.K. Simmons and Chris Pratt are actually very enjoyable. Like, I'm not a huge Chris Pratt fan. Like, after like his action roles are kind of like mediocre at best, but he's actually pretty good in this. His acting is not bad. And
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons is, of course, he's just a fun actor, and he's so jacked in this. Like,
Yeah.
he's the most jacked I've ever seen. Like J.K. Simmons, and he,
Like he looks as jacked as he does in that picture where he was doing like preacher curls or whatever
yeah,
that gets circulated around where
Right,
like he
yeah.
right,
was
right.
clearly like mid workout like as pumped as it gets. He looked like
Yeah.
that every time he was on screen.
Yep. Yep.
I'm pretty sure that he was actually more jacked than Chris Pratt. And Chris Pratt, is like a dude in his like, probably late 30s. And
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons is like 70, I think.
You
Something
know what? You know what?
ridiculous.
You know, I think it is with Chris Pratt because you
Yeah,
mentioned that like he's a little bit better in this than his other action roles, and I
yeah,
agree. I think I figured it out. I think as an action hero, he's very generic and like like the word I would use for him as an action hero is serviceable,
yeah,
right? Like
Right.
like you're not going to complain about it, but you're not going to get wowed in any
Right.
role where he's like an action kind of everyman action guy. What he does a pretty good job in this movie, though, which is a kind of a kind of sub role within this, is concerned dad. He does
Yes.
concerned dad well
yeah,
And I was gonna
while being serviceable and action hero.
right. And what he does, and like, like I think he's pretty good as Star Lord too. Like if he has one of those other things, but what happens sometimes is like the Jurassic World. I only seen one of the new ones, right? But where he does concern dad enough, and it's enough of the movie that like when
Hmm.
he does all three, that's the issue. Like when he does like action hero, serious thing, and Andy from Parks and Rec. When he does all three, it doesn't
Hmm.
work very well. Like Guardians of the Galaxy does mainly Andy from Parks and Rec, an action hero, not so much like he
Yeah,
when he spreads himself out. That said, I don't think he was like agreed. He was better in this movie than some of his other stuff. I thought he was like. I'd put emphasis on pretty good. Like I don't think he was particularly
yeah,
amazing in
yeah.
this.
I
Like
think I think he's better as Star Lord, but
right.
I don't want to give the credit to him on that. I want to give the credit to James Gunn
yeah,
Right,
for
and
like
like the rest of that cast for being amazing and fun
yeah.
to play off of. Right, right, right.
But yeah, I think the concerned dad piece is what brings him above his typical serviceable level.
yeah. Well, and now like his main roles are like kind of like he's like this operator kind of military guy. Like when he was in like what was it, 13 hour or something. He was in he was in a couple military flicks. He's in like
Yep.
the Terminal List now, where he's just like covert, like elite ex special forces guy. Doesn't look like
Yeah.
there's any humor or any kind of like any fun
Yeah.
in that one. So I
Right.
think he's transitioning away from
Yeah.
like goofy comedy into straight like. And there are definitely here's the thing: when this movie first came out, there was two trailers. All right, the first trailer was like kind of like this grim, dark, like Terminator esque film, right? And everyone's just like, man, I don't want to watch this. So they had to release a second trailer where they had like all of the goofy quips, all of like,
Mhm.
his sidekick guy like making funny comments, and then they made that into a trailer. I'm like, hey, it's still Chris Pratt. He's funny,
Right.
like
Right.
they had
Yep.
to like play it up
Yep.
for it. So this was totally like a by the numbers production, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will say, like, the cast members, like I brought that up because, like, I forget the character's name, the one I called Smart Hudson, right? Like the
Yeah,
the the scientist who he buddies up with early on, are like they had other people doing the thing Chris Pratt usually does, and that was effective. Like he
yeah,
was kind of the straight man in a lot of those. He'd goof around some, but like that guy was like the back and forth patter was like it was pretty good and natural and funny. Like that was the part of the movie I kind of enjoyed most, next to the action, because the action was
Yeah.
fine. And
Here's the thing. I actually like until I watched the entire movie, like maybe 20, 30, 40% of in the movie. I was actually into what was happening because I didn't think it would be so straightforward. I didn't think it'd be like
Right.
just a goofy action movie. I thought it
Right.
was just like, oh, are they just grinding up boomers because the boomers are like the responsible for the end of the war? I'm just like,
Right.
this is pretty cool then. Like,
Like, is this
like
gonna be
it's like a
subversive and
reverse.
interest? Right.
Like it's a reverse where like we send all of the old people to like into this like reverse draft. They're like, well,
Right.
but no,
Right.
that's not the case. It's
This is
just,
what you get for not canceling student loan debt. Right. Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly.
It's just like,
Like,
oh, is
like what the
that how we
right.
solve all our
Right.
problems? We
Because
send all of the
Right.
Yeah, this movie actually is an attempt to solve the housing crisis.
yeah. I was
Right.
just like, oh,
Exactly.
like all and
I take the housing crisis seriously.
and they attempt to do like a little bit of like kind of more deeper like dives into like the future, right? And they're just like,
Right.
okay, let's throw a little climate change in there, let's do a little bit of
Yup.
this,
Right. Right.
Yep.
But that
and
was very
it's
clearly tacked on, and it
yeah,
was
I was
just
just like,
like, yeah.
But
Well, yeah.
until I
Go,
saw what was really happening, I was like, okay, this has the realm of being interesting. But mainly, like as soon as I like saw the first part and like how they explained like time travel in general, I was just basically like the subtitle of this is the Tomorrow War. This is not how time travel works. Like fuck,
right. Right. And
Yeah.
like you can tell they
semicolons.
got it because they kept on like they had a character at the exact time the audience would be like, "What about this obvious plot hole?" A character's like, "What about this
Yeah,
obvious plot hole?" And
they
like,
tried to explain it, but it made more
yeah,
like yeah. All right,
yeah.
well, those were my. That's why I did like. I didn't hate this movie. All right,
Right. It
but
was yeah, I had fun
for the
watching
purpose
it
of
because like it's mindless action to whatever. Like you like the first like up through those scenes I was discussing where they had like the back and forth and the pattern while they're like watching the assembly and all that. Like
yeah,
Yep.
I'm like, hey, where's this gonna go? This is interesting. And
yeah,
then first of all, the movie never ended. I'm still watching it. It's incredibly long.
yes.
And like it just like from a third of the movie on, you can be like, this is how the movie's gonna end, and it ends exactly that way.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
does not
just
give you any
like,
twists or anything. It's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
straightforward.
yep,
But anyways, those were the things that worked for me while I was watching it. Like it wasn't too much of like a problem. Like I was watching it while I was on the treadmill, and I was actually like an hour and 20 minutes, and I was like, yeah, okay, I can still keep walking. Like I can still keep working out.
look at that humble
But
brag.
you know,
Treadmill for an hour and 20 minutes. There we go.
Yeah. My take is this movie. It's fun if you can force yourself to turn your brain off.
yes,
You know,
Exactly.
if you turn your brain off, it is fun in the moment. It is,
yeah,
just like Pratt himself, it is serviceable. But
yeah,
if you turn your brain on and you think about the ramifications or the logic of this movie for more than a minute at any given time,
yeah.
you
You
start
can't.
getting mad.
Yeah,
Yep.
you just gotta like literally just be like, okay, this is just a Terminator / Aliens flick, and they just like mushed it all together.
Yeah.
That's the only
Right.
way you could enjoy this.
Yep. It was just very formulaic, and like it executed those formulas pretty well. But like it was just for something that had a chance to be pretty original, it ended up not being original at all. And it's just
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
So
yeah,
fun fact, so the writer who I said he only has one other movie he's written solo, everything else he's done a couple of other things where he's like a like co-writer on. Uh he had a different name for this movie. They changed the name
oh,
uh
it's gonna be good.
in production. The original name of this movie was Ghost Draft.
what?
It's draft.
Ghost
That
Uh,
G-
see,
Ghost
that's a
Draft.
movie I want to watch, but nothing with time travel. I want like
right.
Right.
That's a movie
nothing with
I
time
would
travel.
watch. That's a movie that could have success if it did like the Snakes on a Plane marketing campaign. Just be like, just go all in on like, what's a ghost draft? You don't know. Sign up for you. It could be your grandpa. Like, just viral this, but like,
Yup.
the
Yeah,
movie would actually be bad. But like, yeah,
Yeah. I think my frustration came from the fact that it was just like they mashed a bunch of different things we've already seen together,
yeah,
and just played Mad Libs with
right.
the script.
And like his concerned dad, like so concerned dad. Going back to the concerned dad thing, I think concerned dad when his kid was a kid was well done. Concerned dad when they're both adults, I think didn't work as well. It just seemed like hackneyed, which I mean, it's a harder thing to pull off, so I get it.
Yeah.
But
Were you
like,
guys? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I would say like aside from the concerned dad, I was actually bothered by the parts where they tried to be serious. Like they just tried to be like, they tried to make it like, oh, you die here, and he's supposed to have this profound effect, and it doesn't work. Like they just try to cram so much heavy into a thing that's not a vehicle for it, and it just
Yep.
comes off as hackneyed. So
I also kept waiting. Now, there's something I kept waiting for and expecting to happen, and it never did. And I think it's because this movie is PG-13. Um, and what I was waiting for would have been something that only a hard R movie would have.
right.
The time travel Pip Boy, uh, or like parallel parking wheel clamp on their on their arm. It's on the left arm for everybody, right? I
I
kept
think so.
waiting.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for a scene where somebody loses their left arm and
Oh,
starts freaking out because they
Oh
won't be
yeah.
able to go back, and
Right,
they're
right,
stuck
right.
in
yo,
like.
that's a good point.
I kept waiting for it, and it never happened because it'd be like very harrowing and Saving Private Ryan-y, and also be another hole in their logic where the people have to go back. But like,
Yeah.
I kept waiting for someone to get their arm shot off or crushed or something, and then be like, "No, I can't go back."
That's man, they should have done that.
Yeah.
Or they could have done that with like having the thing get shot, right? Or something, right? Like without their arm falling
Like
off. But like
there's
yeah.
no there's no saving time travel movies. Like
Yeah.
there's entertaining time travel movies, but none of them make sense. So like
Right.
you have to go out of your way to just make them entertaining and to make them like just fun. Like that's it. You got to make them fun.
Yeah.
It was kind of
And this movie took itself a little too seriously
Yeah.
for it to be that
Yeah.
fun thing, right? Yeah.
and I think it was a there's a couple of reasons why that, and I'll explain that a little later. But so anything more to add about what worked with this?
Oh, there's a couple of like random jokes here and there that I really enjoyed. Like when he's working on the cure with his daughter, and he's like he's got the MREs, and he's
Yeah.
like, there's veggie lasagna or veggie lasagna, and I think it's her. She goes like, oh man, now you really know the world's ending.
Yeah.
Like that is a good joke because as anyone who's listened to this before, I served in the military, and there's like 24 rotating MRE flavors, and at the bottom of a box of assorted MREs at the end when people have picked what they wanted, the last two are always veggie lasagna and veggie omelet. Every time. Those are the last to be picked. Like they are the kid with the giant glasses and the club foot getting picked last for dodgeball.
Yeah.
Like
That's
so
funny. That's
that
funny.
was a good joke for me because I've lived that.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny because it's like, oh, veggie lasagna sounds gross, but knowing like it has a actual
Like there's a stigma
that's an
around
actual right, yeah.
like
And-
even the vegetarians in the platoon would get a different one and not eat the meat part because the veggie lasagna is so gross.
I liked how they tried to push science as like a main thing, just like that.
Yes.
That
yes.
like being, it wasn't like, science was what's going to save the day. Shouldn't mainly save the day, really, because science really didn't do crap, literally.
Right.
But I like how they tried to push it like that.
Right. They tried to make like even the
Like the nerdy kid,
the action, the nerdy kid, and like even a lot of the action heroes are also researchers. Like they tried to
Yeah.
make it work. Like
Like everyone like
a good
contributes
point.
because of like their ability to do research and to
Right. No, that's a good point. I give it some
Yeah.
credit there. Oh, what else? I don't know. Like, it ended up pissing. I was gonna say like there was a half-hearted attempt to like make things make sense, like tie in the super
The time
volcano
travel, yeah.
thing to like, and it's
Yeah.
just like, but they were so lazy with it.
No,
Like,
there's definitely it required more writers and smarter writers like that.
right,
That's
Yes.
like they had good ideas, but they just didn't have like the staff was just like it was just two people, and nobody was just like, well, that doesn't make sense. That like why would that happen?
And going back, the last thing I'll say was good. It's all kind of like that Christmas party scene, like
Yeah.
the various things, like him outside waiting for the call, him in a crowded party where other people are having fun and he's tense, the letter from
Yeah.
the dad, them watching the soccer thing, all the different emotions in that scene were actually done very well. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
and even the tension of like the soccer game and like something's gonna happen on that breakaway, but like what is it going to be? Like
Yeah.
that was all.
Mhm.
So that scene, there were a lot of different like sub scenes in that party and
Yeah.
like little quiet moments from that. I thought that was actually a very good scene, and I
The
just
setup
really
is
wish the rest
good.
of the movie, the rest of the movie, I
Like
just wish
thinking
carried that
about
through.
like the whole world is just like they have to send like people out to like this war, but it's not just like it's like these. But then it just starts to fall apart when you're just like, oh, why would they do this? Like that doesn't
Right.
make sense. So
Well,
let's. I
yeah.
think we can get it to the part where now like we talk about the stuff that definitely does not work, and
Right.
there is a lot that does not work.
And main thing, just to explain, which we didn't get into in my quick rundown, and like it's one of the things that doesn't work, that again they try to make work, is so the reason the ones that can jump is because they were dead in the future by the time this happened, so they can't meet their future selves. And the reason that all the people trained them are young is because they're not born yet. And at first you're like, oh, that makes sense, this. But Gray, after we were watching the movie, you both, well, we watched it separately, but after we watched the movie, I think you were the one who mentioned it. We're like, listen, like, so the movie ends like they can't time travel anymore, and like all those people are in the past, and they're either gonna be there with their future selves and something's gonna happen, or they're gonna have to like ritually off themselves before they're born, and that's pretty dark. Like they just don't like bump it
Right.
up. Like they just
Yeah. So
they present it as a problem until it's a problem for them, and then they
Yeah.
ignore the problem. Like
So
right.
sometimes,
So
yeah.
before,
so the way they set it up and the way they describe it, and a lot of this is through Chris Pratt and Sam Richardson's conversations, like as they're figuring it out because they're both smart dudes. Right. Which, by the way, them figuring it out on their own and having those conversations was a good way to have that exposition.
Yes,
I will say,
yes,
as my final good thing, instead of having someone ham-handedly over explain
yeah,
who's like the expert, like
right.
having the two smart guys kind of naturally have
decipher, yeah,
conversations and figure it out
Yep, yep.
was a good way to introduce this movie's time travel logic.
Agreed,
But
agreed.
this movie's time travel logic includes that you cannot be alive, or the two of the same person cannot be both alive at the same time, right?
Right.
yeah,
So like all the people that come back are young because they haven't been born yet in this timeline. All the people that go are people that have already died, so they can't encounter their themselves as a older person.
yeah,
So what Blue's talking about is at the end of the movie, the time travel device blows up. So anyone who was back there helping get us set up to send people is now stuck, right?
yeah,
So our options are A, let those their future selves be born and let the crazy time paradox happen and let the whole universe implode or whatever. B, as Blue said, ritualistically off themselves. Or C, they have to go find their parents who are probably the same age as them and say, "Hey, you can't have kids, or or the world will implode.
Right,
yeah,
right.
I'm your kid. Sorry, we're the same age. You can't have kids."
yeah.
But then they would have been born, Gray. You know, it's the
So
grandfather paradox.
before we start going off on like what doesn't make sense, let's agree not to talk about that time travel again. Just this is just a paradox. There's no way that you can go to
Right,
the
right, right,
future,
right.
go to the
Yeah.
past, change a thing because everything already changes in the future. So there's no reason for it to be sent to the future in the first place. So let's not
Okay.
talk about that. That's
Okay. I've got just one more then
okay. Just
before we put a moratorium on time travel paradox logic.
okay. All right.
They never bothered to explain how the two timelines can communicate with each other.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
communicating with each other in real time. Like
Yeah.
someone's saying something, and the people in the past are getting that message.
Yeah.
It's not like your carrier pigeon where like a person who goes back and forth like brings the message.
Yeah.
They're talking to each other across time, and they never
yeah.
explain how that works.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
And they never explained. Okay, so they explained that time travelers two rafts, right? That like one is tied to the future, and one's tied to the past, and it's constantly moving, so they can't go back at the same time. But they never explained how they got to the first raft in the first place.
Yep,
You know,
Mhm.
yep.
but anyways, it doesn't work. Time travel doesn't work in movies. Is like that. You can't try to affect the future because exactly you're just there. Okay, let's not have a long conversation. That'll take like 2 hours. All right, let's
Yep.
just keep
Let's
it
just put it in the
lock it
Rick
up.
and Morty time
Yeah,
travel
let's just
sub box.
lock it up. Yeah, okay. We'll just go by
Uh-huh.
Terminator rules where we just lower our IQs just a little bit for this
Yep.
Mhm.
conversation.
Yep.
But here's
Agreed.
what I don't like about and this is not about the paradox. It's about okay, so they have 50 years, right? Or whatever, how many years.
Right.
And so they have enough time, right, to warn them, of course, that this future war is happening. Yet technology doesn't proceed at all in 50 years. It's like it's the same
Right.
technology. And it's not even technology that's even really effective. You know? They don't have any armor. They're just like, let's just send random old people with like M16s. And you're like,
Yeah.
how is that effective at all?
Right. And it's like, yeah, and this is kind of a time travel thing, kind of not, but like they couldn't. So I get that in the future they're getting like beaten up by the aliens, and so it's harder to do research. Whatever. That's the whole thing where they have to defend the
Yeah,
installations.
right.
But like, just send all these people back and do research when time's not screwed, and
Yeah.
like it's
Or
yeah,
something. Yeah,
it's
exactly. Send
like
the researchers back in time so they have 50 years to proceed on the thing.
and again they try to explain it away with like, oh, we never knew. So again, what's revealed later is that it's a global warming thing where they
Yeah.
never found where they invaded because it's not a ship that landed. It's
Yeah.
well, it landed forever ago and they were frozen and they thawed out and they like it was in
Yeah.
remote Siberia, so that's why. Where first of all, they still could have been like they knew it was first in Russia, so it's just like they could have been like, okay, this year all of the armies go to Russia, just all of them. Or how about this? Not that it's cool. Like we know they came in Siberia. We have lots of nukes. Everyone leaves Siberia. The end. Right? Like it's just, and then
Yeah.
what happens happens.
There's
Like
like
this is
the here's the thing. The future war is just like, okay, like we have time travel. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna grab people from the past so they can fight the future war. But I'm just like, you have time travel. Like even this really limited version of time travel, it's more powerful than a billion atomic weapons. To,
right.
to be
Yeah.
able to go into the past in 50 years, that wins every war. It doesn't matter what war you're fighting.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Like you could just be
Exactly.
like, "This is what's happening. Here's technology we have now. Make it better. Make it something
Yeah.
that is effective in 50 years."
Right.
Yeah.
Like
And
you
and
have you suddenly have the most precious resource, time.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Right.
It's
You have all the time.
like literally in the future, the commanders are like the only reason they're commanders is they played StarCraft too. They're just like, let's make more Marines then. And they're
Yep.
just like
Yeah.
they could shoot air, they could shoot ground, make more Marines.
Even like it's another thing where like the movie does that thing where what it's trying to do is like with a wink and a nod acknowledge the flaw and like so you like let him in on it where like really
Yeah.
it's just drawing attention to the bad job they do where so at the very end where they're like so again at the end we find out they go into the ship and what it turns out is like a more advanced species were like it's not that the white spikes are smart enough to be interstellar travel. They were like a bioweapon carried by
Yeah.
another
It's
ship that
aliens,
crashed.
dude.
It's alien.
Right,
It's
right.
alien.
It's alien. It's alien. But point being, they get there and they're like, we have our proof. We can take pictures, come back with like the whole world, and like and there's like 7 people, or we can go in and
Yeah.
do this. I'm like, the proper answer is, yeah, let's leave and get the
Yeah.
whole world, because not even self preservation, just like
Yeah.
because like
It's like okay, we found it. We know where they are. They're already
Yeah.
here. They are frozen. We know they thaw out in about 30 years.
Yeah. We have time, yeah.
Like,
right.
let's go tell the world government. And you're right. He suggests that, and then they're all like, nah.
It's like you trust the UN to do this. I'm like, okay, fine.
They're like,
Like,
oh, they'll just get caught in bureaucracy and just dicker forever. It's like, well, they got
right.
30 years. I'm pretty sure
Yeah. Well, to be
sometime
fair,
between now and 30 years from now, they'll
Yeah.
figure out
to
something.
be
And
fair,
probably the something will be nuke that spot.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say. So to be fair, they blew up a lot of ice. There's probably less than 30 years, but they've now exposed the very thing they can now nuke directly, which is what
Yeah.
they would do. Like,
Right.
yeah,
It's
And
like,
it also like invalidates the whole toxin thing because literally like okay they use the toxin for like the main queen and like 5 of the normal ones
yeah,
but then they just like blow up the rest of them and it's just like
yeah,
right.
yep.
like
That's right.
why do you even waste the time on the
Also,
toxins.
the two things with the explosions, two different explosions. Three things. Two of them were at the same explosion. One, They did not bring enough dynamite. Well, it probably wasn't dynamite. High velocity C4 or whatever. They did not bring enough explosive to carve through 1,000 feet of ice at all. Right? There were 7 people, whatever it was. Like there's not that many people. Remember that because that's a problem for later too. Also, they got it. They like did it, and they're like, "Oh, there's a ship!" Like perfect precision, which excellent. Okay, problem 2. Problem 3. They then had enough left over to not just blow up the ship, but to like vaporize and like make a crater the size of the ship fall down. Like I don't know, Gray. I was not in the military. I'm gonna assume 7 backpacks doesn't carry that kind, and these are past explosives. They didn't have the future explosives.
Right.
This was
Right. There's nothing I know of that could do that. That you can fit in a backpack while you're driving a snowmobile.
Right. Right.
What's it called? So my biggest gripe with this movie is that Act 4 exists at all. So if we separate this movie into 4 acts, we've got Act 1, setting the stage. Pratt learns about the future. Oh no. Act 2, Pratt goes to the future, fights whatever. Act 3 is the big climax, and then returning from the future with the cure, but now the time travel thing's broken because the war was lost in the future.
Yeah.
The movie needs to end there because
Yeah.
Okay, the time travel link has been broken. We still have people from the future, and we now have the guy who came back with the toxin that will kill the future aliens, and we know where in the future the aliens will come from.
Right.
So the fact that the world governments just like let everything fall apart and let rioting start without crafting a message, like who is their communications team?
Yeah.
Like who is running PR for the UN and the White House that they just let like this global effort fall apart in like 2 days because the future teleporting thing broke? Like how does everyone know that? Not everyone needs to know this future teleport thing broke. Just big announcement. Hey, we have the toxin. We can stop them. All we need to do is be ready 30 years from now when they arrive. We're going to make a ton of this toxin and we're good to go. Done.
Right.
Movie over. But no. He says, here, make a ton of this. They go, yeah, sure, we'll think about it. Then there's riots and people start like going crazy. The only people that make more of the toxin are the people from the future who apparently have a lab. And like they made as much as they could, which is like 6 backpacks worth. And then there becomes this cockamamie, like, let's have the volcano kid tell us where they're coming from. And then the 7 of us are going to go to the Arctic Circle with my dad's like C-130.
Yeah.
Like
it doesn't make any sense.
The whole movie falls apart in Act 4. Like that feels tacked on by a producer or something.
Right.
But
that needed like a final battle. Yeah.
But that wanted a final battle where like you fight the one of the queens or the queen again when
they
she
wanted
first
like an
thaws
aliens like show off, like a showdown.
The movie was at best like stapled together in Act 3. It's not like it was good and then it was, but it completely went to crap. In Act 4.
No,
like Act 4 couldn't exist, honestly. Like, so the only reason that they know where like the location of the hive is because of the claw that the guy, the most elite,
Angry Hicks. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
alien killer, right?
The guy with cancer who like was who had like volunteered for multiple tours. Yeah.
So they took the claw, right, and they like examined it, and they're just like, hey, this claw has like sediment from volcanoes. And like, but they were in Russia, so how do we like cross check? How was that alien one of the first of the 15 aliens that dug out? Like they're all over the planet. There are like millions of them, right? And for some reason, like, he was lucky enough to get the one claw from the original like 20 aliens.
Well, not only that, so I didn't think of that. What I thought of that's problem with that, and that's a better one, is that alien's been around for like a while. Like that ash didn't like fall in some water at some point, and like that ash came off. Like I don't.
Well, because the thing is, they mentioned they're like, he's been on like 5. He's volunteered for like 5 tours, and he was one of those. He was the first one. He was in the first group that went to the future and like fought them in Russia. So like, okay. So he's one of the first people to go to the future, right? By the time they built the machine to go to the past and bring us, hadn't the war already been going on for years at that point?
Exactly.
Like
Yup.
they weren't already working on time travel when they got it when the war started. So like how does he have a claw from one of the first ones ever killed?
Yeah.
Yep.
If he's from the past originally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. It's literally
it's
like
ludicrous.
It's
is
one of those plot holes
nonsense.
again where they needed more writers in the room.
Like all it needed to be is a guy who was already from the future who wore one around his neck, and somehow Pratt ended up with that.
Yeah,
Right.
But
exactly.
it being a guy from the past who has a claw from one of the first ones ever killed makes zero sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
it should have been like his daughter had one, and just like this is like a memento or whatever, and she gets
Exactly.
it.
Right.
Like the 2 sentences could have fixed this.
Yep. Again,
Yep.
not enough writers in the room. So
Yeah.
like, there's just like a bunch of stuff that just doesn't work. Like that, just like kind of it really is like a really steep decline. As soon as like you realize that the aliens, I literally thought the aliens were old people. Like there was like a bioweapon that they turned into it. So they're just like, what if we had the old people fight themselves like in the future? Like that's the future war. How cool would that have been, right? We're just like, but it's just like we voted for you.
Boomer versus boomer.
Yeah, just
Oh,
like we
God.
ruined the future for you. Like, well, you gotta help us save it.
Oh God.
Like how sweet would that movie have been?
That would have been a better movie.
That would have been a better movie. That would have
No
been a
doubt
much
in my
better
mind.
movie.
It was just like, yeah, we didn't want to get vaccinated. Like, they're just like, yeah, dude. Like, they turned into monsters without the vaccination.
Like,
So, like
all like, and it's, we've touched on a lot of it. Like all this would be better if they just didn't try to answer it at all, but they tried to answer it like halfway, and it just made it more aggravating. It's like it thinks it's being clever, and it's just not. And
Well,
it's
then-
just like,
well, it's like it's so crazy that like the three of us can come up with like we can see the glaring like problems with it and just like come up with better solutions and just like I didn't even think of this until we were talking about it now. Like, what were they thinking? You know?
Yeah. I mean, and then again with the lazy power scaling, like we were saying earlier about the guns, like how they impact them changing. These are also monsters that we are literally shown can flip over a Humvee like a ram, like butting heads with another ram, right? Like they could just run into a Humvee and flip a fully loaded with people in it armored Humvee, which is like, I don't know, like 7,000-8,000 pounds. They can flip that thing over by headbutting it. Yet Chris Pratt can fight one in a hallway with a fire axe and not get immediately destroyed.
yeah, he boxes one later in the movie. He fights it with his fists at the end of the movie.
Like so, like the munitions they use, like they're just regular bullets. I'm like, these things are invincible. Like you just have regular bullets, and like it's like, what is going on? Like, why are these the weapons? Like, why don't you have better weapons?
Well, right. Well, that's the thing. Even if that was the weapons we use in the future for conventional wars, right?
Yeah.
And we get involved in this altercation with these things that are spreading out of Russia, and it's like, oh crap, they are impervious to our normal bullets except for their neck and the stomach.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we then have like Colt and Smith and Wesson and all these gun factories like start mass producing high caliber guns where it's like it's the size of an M16 but it shoots 50 cal rounds? Like wouldn't we start mass producing a gun that worked?
Yeah, exactly. You want to keep using the guns that don't work. You're just like, well, it does kind of work. Like if you get them in the belly, you're just like, why don't you just make a gun that just works?
And this is a gripe of like, and it's just like, and this is like true of like anime is guilty of this a lot with like thin people that are super strong, whatever. And a ton of movies are just like things that are like thin armor making things totally indestructible. Like there is not like something that can move that fast doesn't have enough mass on it to like that amount of bullets. Nothing's that invincible. Like it's just not, unless those aliens are made of steel. It just, even though steel wouldn't hold, like it's just lazy. Like, oh, they're invincible because they're invincible. Like they're not. They're like, if you shoot anything that much,
but
that's living. Like,
yeah, but we don't know what their solar system or their galaxy's periodic table has on it. There could be an element we're not aware of.
It's just the fact that they just use the stuff that doesn't work.
Right.
It's
But
just
at
like,
some point, there's only so much material to a
Yes.
living thing. And a
Yes.
bullet removes some amount of material from anything it hits. And
Right.
enough bullets there.
Yes.
It's like, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, then, you know, again, I don't want to go too down this rabbit hole with guns and armor, but like, then towards the end, J.K. Simmons like shoots one with his big like rifle.
Yep.
Like he shoots the queen, and she doesn't see it's coming, and it hits her in the shoulder, and she like goes flying off screen.
Yep.
yeah,
And then she gets back up, and he shoots her like 2 more times, and she knows it's coming, and she like puts her shoulder into it like a linebacker, and just like shoulders these bullets, and like barely is phased by the same
Yeah.
bullet that knocked her on her ass like a minute ago.
Yeah.
So you're saying that's not Newtonian physics? You're saying
Yeah.
lowering your shoulder is not the unstoppable force? Or a
No.
movable object. Sorry. Right.
Yeah, no. Lowering your shoulder does not help when there's that much force in something this big.
Right. Also, how come J.K. Simmons did he bolt himself into the ground? That he didn't go flying backwards the same amount? I mean, equal and opposite reaction, baby. Like,
and just in general, right? Like, just the draft in general is just like it's a cool idea, but they're just like, okay, we just like 20% survival rate. Well, like maybe they would have a better survival rate if like they had weapons that worked, or maybe like you didn't use it, and like you would stop sending people. Like imagine an army was just like, yeah, like these guys don't survive. Like we only get 10% back. You just be like, let's stop sending them then. That'd be like the first. Like there's a better way to use people than like this.
Yeah, like maybe like let's send like tanks. Like
Yeah,
on that one now, and I'm gonna mess up the exact stat. I'm not sure that's true. So like World War II, the B-17 bombers and stuff, like they had like at one point it was like a 80-90% fatality rate. I mean, there have been times where we're like, these people die that much, and like this is the one way we know how to bomb Germany,
but they're
and you got to
effective,
keep
right?
doing it.
The bombers are effective. Like it's not like we're dropping the people out of the bombers themselves,
That's
like
fair.
using
That's
their
fair.
bodies to smash
I'm just
buildings.
saying the
That's what it's
fatality
effective.
rate. Yeah, I'm just saying the fatality rate alone. Like I could see them stomaching the fatality rate if it worked.
Okay, so
but
during
like,
the jump, they're just like, okay, be careful. Like you're gonna drop like 6 feet. Why do they drop 6 feet in general?
Right.
Why not put them closer to the ground? Like, and they don't have any way to like soften the jump, right? They just die.
Well, I think my guess there, and this is just purely from like a statistics mindset, is that there's probably a margin of error in which they can't be super precise, and they have to go the other direction because they don't want to teleport them into the ground.
Yeah,
that's fair. But in that case, give them like bouncy shoes or make them wear one of those
parachutes, just in case.
Just
in case, give them parachutes.
So I think the whole margin has to be shifted up so that there's no chance that they get teleported.
So you just don't phase into the asphalt.
The asphalt, right? That's my guess.
It's just like okay, like everyone just bend your knees. Like give them some body armor. I'm sure like okay, so every time they die, every time like a civilian dies, they get $1 million, right? Like their family gets $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Use a little bit of that money to get them like I don't know, a parachute, like maybe some body armor.
Right.
Like there's a lady with like a business suit and she's running around like with the assault rifle. And you're like, why doesn't she have like a vest? Like
well, like, and it could even be simpler than that. You could just have like in retirement, they're testing out like, for old people's homes where like they fall and the jacket detects and puts up like a bubble. Just give them that. Just like, oh, you're falling 6 feet. All right, get up.
So speaking of falling, the opening scene where there's like the emergency jump because they got an immediate transmission about an attack because again, they don't tell us how they communicate across time, but fine. They get the transmission that, oh no, we have to teleport you even though it's not the Sabbath yet. So we have to teleport you into a hot zone and we're doing it in a rush. So we're going to get our coordinates wrong and you're going to end up like hundreds of feet in the air. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone he met lives.
Yes. They all landed in the pool.
Everyone he met fell into a rooftop pool.
Yup.
You're kidding me.
How lucky is that? Yeah.
Like I was 5 minutes into this movie and I was like, what is happening here? Or not 5 minutes. Whenever they get back to the cold open. Yeah. Like from the intro, I was like, okay, this intro is like kind of good. And then they like cut back to what the cold open was. And I was like, how did everyone he met survive? Like Gail the snail from It's Always Sunny survived.
Yep.
Like Richardson survived, the guy with the claw on his thing survived,
Yeah.
that guy's chick survived, Sam Richardson. It's like all 9 people we've met landed in this one pool.
Yes. Like the odds are just like insane.
Like, show me the odds on that. Like who won the proxy bet on that? Because that person's a billionaire.
Right. Bonkers. Bonkers.
I still can't get over the fact this movie was originally called Ghost Draft.
But that's amazing.
Like, here's another really nitpicky thing that just like that bothered me in the moment, just because it's just one of those, like, it's a prop. It's a prop thing. They screwed up on the props and it pissed me off. So they go into the lab. He's talking to his commander, who he doesn't know yet is his daughter, and they're like, okay, we gotta get in the lab. Oh crap, everybody's dead. You gotta get the blue. You gotta get the toxin they were researching, the blue ampules. You have to get the blue ampules. And he's like, okay, which ones are they? They're like, there's blue. There's 12 of them. I need them all. Right?
Yeah.
He grabs the test tube rack. Right? That test tube rack has 15, not 12 in it.
I didn't even notice. Not gonna lie.
I didn't notice that.
A standard test tube rack is 3 by 5.
And they just took a standard test tube rack
and filled it with like blue highlighter ink. And it's so there are 15 that he grabs. So if you told me there are 12 and I need all of them, and I see a thing with 15, I'm gonna go, well, that's not it, and I'm gonna keep looking.
Yep. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I would love it if that's how this movie turned out, where like he wakes up after like getting knocked out, and they're like, "You idiot! You grabbed the wrong test tubes.
But can't you tell?
We're all dead."
Yeah. Also, in that scene where they're like, "We're gonna," and I get that, like they go back and forth. So where they have to get out because the bombers are gonna hit, and like stay away from things with red smoke, and they go right into red smoke. Ha ha ha.
They run right into it.
They ran right into it. Yes, but they're also like. They kept on. It's like the guns. How much that was going to destroy the city, like, was what it's going to completely destroy the city. Oh, it'll knock down a few buildings. Oh, it'll end exactly at this tunnel that you're in right now.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the thing when they just like we gotta eliminate that entire city. Like it's overrun.
What they did would not eliminate that entire city.
He said like 3 jets with like, and they're again, they're not future jets. Like 50 years in the world, and they're still like F-22
like when they
Raptors.
said that, I assumed there was going to be some sort of tactical nuke involved, or like like a Moab or whatever, or something that's like this one thing is going to blow up this whole area, which is not what happened.
No.
So like, yeah.
Oh, for any of you who's uninitiated, because I still think this is awesome, even though this is not news. A Moab.
Right. Sorry. Yes.
No. You're fine. A Moab is the largest tactical bomb that's not radiological that we have, and Moab stands for mother of all bombs.
Right. And it's just like,
and I've never stopped thinking that's awesome.
And it blows up like it's like over a mile, right? Like how much with conventional explosives it destroys.
It's like 10 square city blocks or something.
That's
from one
crazy.
bomb.
That's crazy. So yeah, like that could have done it maybe, but like they just did like a bunch of little bombs. Like that's
But here's the thing: they have future tech. Like if you go into like their main base, they have like the future like little Starcraft. What are they called? Raiders.
Oh, like the Banshees. They have the helicopters with the dual
Starcraft
rotors.
Banshees, yeah, they have like little Banshees flying around, and like
And they got those special Humvees that don't need headlights but look normal.
Yep. But like,
I love that special base they built. Like, let's talk about that base for a minute. Okay. That base is like a couple of oil rigs that have like a superstructure built on top of it around each other, and a big like round like seawall, and then there's a couple of cruise ships.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine that the people live on the cruise ships and work on the superstructure.
Yeah.
And like that's their life. And like I want to know the logistics. I want to know like how they have set up the little boats that take you back and forth from where you live on the cruise ship to where you work on the superstructure. Like I want a workday comedy of living at that base.
Yeah. That's gotta be it, man. Like it's again like, why is there no future in the Tomorrow War, right? The Tomorrow is like very today, and it's just lame. It was just lame how like and it's just like, okay, so they're in Puerto Rico, and then they're in Miami, and then they're in like a jungle somewhere, and they're able to like get to these places like immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because they have 7 days. Yet, like, they're, like,
Mhm.
zipping around, like, the globe, like, it's dumb.
I don't think he even has 7 days because they had to transport them when it wasn't the Sabbath. Like, it was, like, midweek. So
Yeah.
I think he's only in the future for, like, 4 days.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's
Also,
like
Or is he
Go-
in there 7 plus 4? Is it, like, 11 days?
No, I thought it was just 7. I thought it was just the
Well, no,
standard 7.
it's supposed no, every 7 days is when they normally teleport people.
Right, right.
But when he got teleported in, the whole reason why was they were under attack, which can't be a
That's right.
Sabbath. So they got sent in early.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. You're right. You're
So
right.
I don't know if he's in the future for 4 days or 11.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. No,
also,
that's a
there's
good
no
point.
explanation of why, like, they rest on 7 days.
Yeah,
It's, like,
they don't.
weird.
Just to have no. The answer is to have some hackneyed, deep sounding
Yeah.
religious angle. That's why.
Oh,
Just like,
was that inserted for Pratt because he
oh man, now I think it was. Actually, now I think it was. Like, actually, I want to Google that. Also, I did get bored to Google the Moab. It apparently, this is all Wikipedia, so whatever. Had cost $170,000 per bomb and has a blast radius of 1 mile, equivalent to 22,000 pounds of TNT. So, and that's not. There's just that much. It gets the equivalent of 22,000 pounds of TNT by being filled with 18,700 pounds of better explosive. So, like, it just has that much explosive in it.
Yep,
That's the way to do it.
It's actually just a giant propane tank full of
Yeah.
sticks of dynamite,
Pretty much.
like
Like a
Wile E.
cartoon.
Coyotes designing bombs.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an Acme product.
God.
Oh, let's see. I'm looking at my notes to see if I've missed anything here.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. But
Let's see. Communication across time. So a couple things from end of Act 2, beginning of Act 3, depending on where you want to cut between 2 and 3. So when they're at the super secret research base and they have the queen there, the female or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So we've already established that the females get protected like crazy, right?
right.
We've already established that the toxin doesn't work on them.
Yeah.
But they have, through dialogue, established that they can be killed through conventional weapons, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to have a toxin to kill them. They're not invincible until a toxin's invented, because when they get that one that like they capture in the cage that Blue so eloquently pointed out doesn't shoot its spikes through. They say, "Oh, we've managed to capture one alive." Right?
Yeah.
Meaning we've killed them before. We have dead ones. We just
Yeah.
needed an alive one to be able to test the toxin on.
Right.
2 things about this. 1, they don't know that like 20,000 males are coming until they're
right.
already at the gate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, this is the future. They do have a radar screen, and their radar screen stops at the edge of the minefield. Like, they don't know they're coming until the mines start blowing up. Like,
It's literally StarCraft.
Like
the fog of war just like does not extend past.
Right. The fog of war is around the base and they just show up. Like, we don't have satellites anymore. We don't have sonar anymore. Like, these things are ostensibly swimming, and there's like 10, 20,000 of them. How do we not know they're there until they're all already here?
You don't even need to assume that, because like we see them on radar when they get there, so it's not like we're theorizing that they show up. Like, they show up on the scanners, whatever they're using. So like,
But their
they
scanners
should
are
have just
only
put
like 20 feet out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
like maddening.
Even in StarCraft, you could put a sensor turret at the edge of your base.
Yeah.
And that would get you when they're on their way.
You'd think there'd be patrols, right? Like,
there'd be something. Like, they wouldn't not know until the mine started blowing up. That drove me crazy. But here's the other piece.
Yeah.
So when they get their message that they're under attack, Pratt turns to his daughter and they're like, "Oh," and she's like, "Oh no, we have the toxin, but they're here. We have to get you back to the past. Let's go to my chopper," right? He was like, "Well, let's kill her because that's what they're after."
Yeah.
And she's like, we don't have enough of the toxin. We have to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shoot her.
Shoot it.
Yeah.
Right.
Shoot it. Shoot it with the guns that you have right there.
Yeah, they take the guns out of the thing to be like, we need to protect ourselves. Like, no, we better shoot this.
Like they're loading their guns while she's like, "No, we can't kill it because we don't have enough toxin." Like,
Yeah.
the thing is
Yep.
chained up. Just like shoot it 100 times in the throat.
Yep.
At that point, wouldn't those 20,000 stop attacking?
Yeah.
Or at least some of them? The drive to come was to protect their queen. If the
Yep.
queen's dead, they would dissipate and go back to whatever the hell they were doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she's
Doesn't
like,
make
no,
any
no,
sense.
we have to leave it alive so it can escape and fight us later.
Exactly. Exactly.
It drove me crazy. Like
Yeah.
from that point forward, the movie lost all credibility with me. Like, it was already strained pretty thin, but from that point forward, every decision made was a stupid decision for a screen spectacle.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You remember, like, when they're actually running away from, like, the first time they witnessed the white snakes, white snacks,
White spikes.
what are they?
White spikes.
White spikes,
White snacks.
White snacks.
white snacks. Like, so they're using their guns, right? And they're running through the hallway, and like Chris Pratt tries to like axe one of them, and that that's
Yeah.
So the veteran, right? He slides in, right, and he uses the shotgun, and it blows the thing's head clean off.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Yep.
probably should have shotguns, like, or something
Right.
equivalent to that. Like,
This looks like
that
it would
seems more-
work.
yeah, it seems more effective.
Also, here's the thing that I was annoyed that the movie didn't have Chris Pratt be like, now you tell me, like, that guy, he goes in, he knows all this. He knows that these are newbies. There's all these things. He waits until like 3 of them are dead and they've shot 1,000 things. Be like, belly your neck. Like, oh, okay. Thank you for that information. Now.
Yep. Yeah, and him and the rest of the team not get eaten.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And also the back to I alluded to this in the quick rundown, but like I said it jokingly, but it's a real issue. Like, 2 things that bothered me about the way the jump happened. One, that she did not give him the toxin until like, so she hands it over like, no, I'm dying, take it now. And like seconds later he teleports. So like, there's just no, like, give it to him at the start. Good God. Also, more fundamental problem, we have seen, as you talked about before, both of you, that they can, it's not like they are unable to jump on not the Sabbath, because they just like, that they do it because it's safe, but they've jumped them at other times.
Yeah.
He has the toxin now. Just be like, Dad, bye. Pff, jump him.
Yeah.
Jump him.
Exactly.
Jump him
Like,
now.
just jump him. Like, or at
You don't
least
have to
give
wait
me a
for the
line
time.
about like, no, the control got messed up. We have to rate. Just give me something. But he's like, no, we have to wait till the automated time. And like, it was just.
Well, here's the thing, like,
And that was manufactured for tension, so they could have that scene where he dives down, determined to end the world by being killed, only to be saved before he hits the ground.
He was so determined to just ruin everything.
Yep,
Well, here's the thing, like the 7-day wrist thing is so weird. It's like, here's a timer, just like, how about, like, I don't know, when you are seriously wounded, it just teleports you back. You would save 80%, 90% of all the people.
Right. Your blood pressure dropped below a certain point. Oh, you're probably bleeding out. Get it.
Like, why
get
did it
on
have to
there,
be 7
like-
days? Like, why is it just like, yeah, we need you need to be 7 days. Like, I know you will die.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be every 7 days we send people to the future because that's when we know they won't get attacked right away.
Yeah. Why does
it have to be every 7 days we send back?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It literally should be less like, okay, like, you're about to die, or you send back. You know, that's it. Then, like, maybe we can send him again. Okay, have we pretty much gone enough to like why this? It just doesn't make any sense. This movie just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
It's just bad writing. It's like here's the thing, like even like the team like don't get eaten. It's like pulled directly out of Predator, like, and not just the first Predator, like all the Predator movies. Like, we're tough guys, and like we know what to do. Like we've handled this before. You know, we're elite. And then they're the first to get whacked. You're like,
Yep. And that guy's elite because he's done like, I think they said 3 or 5 tours, but
it was 5, yeah.
But each tour is 7 days. It's not like it's like when they say somebody's done like 5 tours in Iraq, that's like they've spent like 4 to 7 years in Iraq, depending on how long their tours were. This guy spent 7 or 3 to 5 weeks in the future, and he's like the grizzled, grizzled, jaded veteran who has spent less time than you spend at boot camp.
Yes.
In the future.
And he knows how to survive with his elite team of like, you know. So goofy, dude.
Yeah. I'm stretched thin on this one.
Yeah.
I think the problem, my biggest problem with this movie as an overarching thing is that it starts off fairly strong with a fairly good
Yes.
setup.
Yeah.
Act 2 is relatively fun. 3 gets real hokey, and 4 is absurd. So
Yeah.
like the movie just like careens downhill
Yeah.
as you watch it, and you
Yeah.
have to will yourself to not think for Act 3 or 4 to be fun.
Yeah. It just exactly. That's exactly
Yep.
how it is.
Yep.
All right, so I think now we're at the time where we have to say what we've learned about this movie. Does anyone want to volunteer to go first? Otherwise, I will.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. So, the moral of the story segment. So, what I've learned from this movie is that wherever the aliens come from that we will eventually defeat is going to take over the earth. So, I guess my moral is we should all learn to speak Russian because they have now think about this alien ship crash landed sometime before 946 AD with interstellar technology, a bioweapon designed to supposedly, as they've exposition has told us, to clear a planet, and a magical batteries and life support system that kept these bioweapons alive in their cocoons for over 1,000 years, right? Somewhere like 1,300 years or something.
Yep.
Once everything's all said and done, that is on Russian soil. The Russians are going to take all of what's left that didn't get blown up, and they are going to reverse engineer all that, and Russia is going to take over the world with super weapons. So we need to start learning to speak Russian now.
My moral is a little different, and it was alluded to before, and it is simply this: take a breath and think. Just think. Just think. Just be like, hey, maybe send some science or weapons into the past, or maybe some other stuff in the future, or maybe talk in between a little bit, or maybe just like, hey, we got 6 billion people in the world. We can narrow down from Russia and figure this out. Like, just take a breath, look inside yourself, and collectively don't lose your crap. Like, I just think, just try it.
All right. You guys ready for this one?
Yeah.
Everyone take some notes, okay?
Yep.
Boomers. The cause of and solution to all of the world's problems.
And with that,
No, we gotta give it a rating.
oh god,
Oh man.
Do we usually do the rating before, or I think we usually
No.
do the rating before.
That's all right. We can do the rating after.
Yeah, all right.
I give this movie 2 out of 5 obese, bloated xenomorphs in a blender.
I give this movie 3 out of 7 Nations Army.
I give it 4 out of 10 white snacks.
And that is Dinner for Wolf.
Good night, everybody.